Hey, it's Mitchell Cambray here. I'm going to be discussing the Othello play by William Shakespeare, and I'm really just going to be talking about all the issues in this play, such as jealousy, racism, sexism, reputation, and evil and villainy, and how those are just timeless. Those are just timeless things that still go on today and did back then, and how it worked into this play and how it translates to today's world. So we're going to start by Othello being about 40 years old. He married a young Desdemona, which is about 18. And honestly, that's just looked down on in today's age. It's not really looked down on, I guess, but people just find it weird, and people think that the woman would be using the man that she's marrying older for money or fame or for just clout in general. And that would make sense because Othello was the leader of the town. He was to protect. He was a warrior, which I'm sure is very attractive, but he was just a warrior, and he just protected the city, and he had a lot of clout for that because no one would touch him because he's the reason that they were all safe. So he was insecure about it in a way because she didn't really realize why that she married him at such a young age. So he kind of developed an insecurity about that. And it just translates to today's world because you see all these famous young actors or famous young models who are in their 20s marrying 60, 70-year-old guys for money or whatever. So once they die, they're just rich. So it translates today for sure. And another theme about Othello is insecurities, and that's one of them for Othello, but we'll talk about that later. The next one would be racism, which Othello is the only African-American male in Venice, so that would make him a little insecure about that. And that definitely translates to today because the Civil War happened about 200, 300 years after these plays were made. Even still today, like during the 20th century, all the movements that were going on with Martin Luther King, with Malcolm X, with all that type of stuff, and even today with the racist killings and all that. So it really just translates to today's world with racism. Another theme in this play would be sexism because women weren't treated as equal as the men, and they weren't, like, their opinions and views weren't as valued as men, such as like Iago or Othello or Cassio or anyone, because Othello just wouldn't believe Desdemona that she didn't cheat on him, and he didn't believe that she was telling the truth at all. So that really relates today because not as much today, but during the 20th century and earlier, women really had no rights. They couldn't vote. They couldn't do a lot of things. Their voice wasn't really as heard. They couldn't even really have real jobs until like the World Wars, when they could work in factories. That's really when they got to get a real job instead of staying at home and looking after children. So that definitely relates. But now talking about villainy and evil, it definitely relates to it's timeless because everyone will always be evil or act like a villain. And Iago was manipulating Othello the whole play because he was just lying to him for no reason. Like, the reason wasn't even given in the play. He was lying to Othello, saying that Desdemona was cheating on him, and he was lying about the handkerchief. Like, he said that Desdemona gave it to Cassio because the handkerchief was Othello gave it to Desdemona when they first met. So it was really special to Othello because his mother gave it to him. But so Iago told his wife to get that handkerchief, and he planted it in Cassio's room to just really like manipulate Othello. And Othello had no reason not to believe Iago because they were always boys and always friends, and Iago always told Othello how much he loved him and all that. So Othello really had no reason not to trust Iago. So Iago really just did it for no reason. and it was just evil. And that really relates today, because there'll always be evil people in the world, whether it's terrorists, whether it's just criminals in general, or anyone. People will always be lying, and people will always be just doing evil stuff like that. So I think it's the most timeless act, because even from the beginning of time, I'd say people were evil and all that, and it'll never end. Reputation in this play is a big thing, because everyone will always feel like they have a reputation, or they think they have clout from certain things. Like, Othello thought that no one would lie to him, or no one would do him wrong because he protected the city, but that's just not true. Like, no one really cares what your reputation is, or what your whatever. Like, no one's untouchable. But then I think, to finish, one of the biggest themes in this is just insecurities, because Othello, he was the only black man in Venice. He was older than Desdemona, way older, so that gave him more insecurities, and he was just confused why Desdemona would choose him to marry over anyone else, because usually a white female would be with a white man. And she was just really insecure about that, especially when Iago was just lying to him and making these insecurities worse, which turned into a lot of jealousy, which is the biggest theme of this whole play, is jealousy. Because Othello was just jealous of Cassio and Desdemona, even though it wasn't true, but jealousy will always be timeless, because everyone from the beginning of time would be jealous, and everyone now will be jealous about certain things. And that's really the biggest main theme about this, is jealousy is the green-eyed monster, as it says in the play, and it'll just eat you alive if you let it. So, yeah, that's this podcast about Othello, talking about jealousy, racism, sexism, reputation, evil, and villainy. All timeless themes, and all timeless issues that have been around since the beginning of time to now. And that's how they related in the Othello play.